Over the past year, a number of incidents have occurred with the US military in the Persian Gulf region, including fatal ones. Just list some of them for the big picture. In the air, Iranians shot down a US Navy reconnaissance drone above the neutral waters of the Persian Gulf. However, he had no weapons and was out of combat, and therefore could not pose any threat in principle. And given its cost, about $250 million, which is equal to the cost of 3 F-35A aircraft, no one would ever send it to someone else's airspace. There is another explanation for this. The electronic equipment of the device allows you to scan everything you need to a distance of up to 200 kilometers. And this means that, in principle, he does not need the airspace of another, and even more so, a hostile country. On the ground, a large US military base in Iraq was bombarded by Iranian missiles from Iranian territory. As a result of the shelling, there were killed and several dozen wounded American soldiers. On the sea, Iranian combat boats captured several tankers and one of them was seriously damaged. These same combat boats attempted to attack the US Navy logistics vessel. Implement capture did not work. And not only this happened just in the last year. Impunity gives rise to the illusion of permissiveness, and the next, more serious incident, is just a matter of time. But it was not always so. Other presidents had the tact to make it clear to Iran that such numbers would not get away with it. But it looked like that in the 80s. True, at the time the United States was ruled by another Republican, Ronald Reagan, and therefore the reaction was also different. It all started with the fact that the long war between Iran and Iraq grew into a positional one, and in any textbook on military art one can find a description of how this type of military action becomes a war of resources. Whoever has more of them will be the winner. Since the resources of both Iran and Iraq directly depended on the sale of oil, the emphasis gradually shifted to the sea, where the parties tried to stop the flow of tankers that carried enemy oil. Not surprisingly, in the narrow Gulf, tankers from other countries that did not participate in the conflict began to fall under attack. In 1987, Washington responded to Kuwait's request to transfer its tankers to American flags so that the US Navy could escort ships through the Persian Gulf. Thus began the American Operation Confident Will, which lasted from July 1987 to September 1988. It included several smaller operations, during which there were direct clashes with the Iranian fleet. It should be noted that at the time the United States was the largest global consumer of oil and most of it came from the Gulf region. This means that the fight between Iran and Iraq began to threaten the uninterrupted supply of strategic raw materials to the states. To carry out the operation, the corresponding ships of the US Navy and Aviation, mainly attack helicopters, were sent to the Gulf. The task of the military group was to safely conduct caravans of tankers from the bulk terminal to the Strait of Hormuz and further to the side of the Iranian coast. Iranians inflicted maximum damage to ships both off the coast of Iraq and in the Strait of Hormuz, already at the exit from the Gulf. It was here that there were the hottest places where the Americans were supposed to cover up oil caravans. It seems that the operational group had either a carte blanche for retaliatory actions, or the operation was initially designed in such a way that standard actions were determined for any development of the situation. Since it was a question of the direct use of weapons to kill, it is certain that the president's signature must flaunt on one of the documents launching the start of the operation. Well, then, everything developed like this. On September 21, 1987, Little Bird's helicopters from the 160th Army Special Operations Aviation Regiment attacked the Iranian ship Pajar when it laid mines, forcing its crew to leave the ship. A few days later, Little Iranian Bird sunk 3 Iranian patrol boats. On October 16, 1987, an Iranian missile hit a Kuwaiti tanker, injuring 19 people. In response, the US task force raided 2 non-working oil platforms that the IRGC used as a base for armed speedboats. US warships surrounded the platforms and forced the Iranian military to evacuate. US commandos climbed onto one platform to collect any documents left by the Iranians. After some time, 4 American destroyers opened artillery fire and set fire to the platforms. On April 14, 1988, the frigate USS Samuel B. Roberts, escorting tanker vessels across the Persian Gulf, discovered and destroyed mines delivered by the Iranians on the Fairway. Aircraft carrier USS Enterprise conducted a return raid, 2 American destroyers and a landing ship with a U.S. Marine Corps battalion attacked the oil platform, which the Iranians used as a springboard for laying mines and shelling tankers. Iranians fired at Marine Cobra destroyers and helicopters. As a result of the battle, the Marines stormed the platform, capturing one surviving Iranian shooter. The rest alive could not be captured. Iranian speedboats raided 3 civilian cargo ships. At the time of the departure of the Iranian assault group, the A-6 Enterprise bombers let them move away and bombarded them with cluster bombs. The Joshin Iranian missile boat launched the Harpoon anti-ship missile against a group of U.S. warships and missed. The Americans fired back at Harpoon and Standard missiles, inflicting significant damage to the enemy, and then sank the damaged Joshin, firing it from their guns. While the Americans laid the bottom of the missile boat, the destroyers of the Navy of Iran, built in the 1960s, Sahand and Sabalan, entered the battle. Both managed to open fire, but to no avail. In response, A-6 planes fired at them with Harpoon missiles and laser-guided bombs, sinking Sahand and causing Sabalina to be completely disabled. As a result, the confirmed losses of the parties killed were 56 people from Iran and 2 people from the Americans. American casualties are caused by a helicopter crash due to a malfunction. In addition, the Iranian fleet lost its combat capability and it ceased its activity in the Persian Gulf. What would American troops do in the days of President Reagan if the Iranians did what Trump had endured now? In the end, Trump simply postponed the solution to the problem, which he himself created. However, let the Americans decide for themselves which of these 2 presidents did the right thing and which didn't.